morning. I met John McCain when I was 6 years old, and I had the privilege of seeing him up close for more than 30 years. I saw him on the Senate floor. I saw him twice run for president, and I was even there when he hosted Saturday Night Live. But some of my most lasting memories of John revolve around sports. For those that knew John, he was a true sports fanatic with a deep and genuine passion for the hometown teams. I remember weekend mornings sitting under the sycamore tree along the Oak Creek, watching John devour every single word of the Arizona Republic sports section before then turning to the rest of the world's news. And I spent countless hours beside him in his living room, watching him ride the highs and the lows of his beloved Cardinals, Suns, Diamondbacks, and Coyotes. It was sport, in fact, that first showed me the full measure of this great man. And I have three specific memories: one I witnessed up close, one I saw from afar, and one I followed alongside the rest of the country, which really speak to how John used sport for the greater good. First, in the mid-1990s, John invited my family to go to a spring training game with the Chicago Cubs. Beforehand, he took us down to the field. We met the players, we got autographs, the whole experience. At that age, I knew John was important, but it didn't fully register until I saw Sammy Sosa, a mountain of a man and a giant of the game, run over to shake John's hand, to show John respect. On the field, Sosa was the star, but in that handshake, it was John who stood tall. Different worlds, different arenas, but it was the sports legend who stood in awe. My second memory came in October 2001 during the World Series at Yankee Stadium. I was a freshman at Boston College at the time, and I somehow got my hands on tickets to outfield bleacher seats to watch the Diamondbacks take on the Yankees. John was there too, sitting behind home plate next to Mayor Giuliani. Early in the game, the cameras found John. He was wearing a bright turquoise D-backs hat, and when his face appeared on the big screen, the crowd, traditionally extremely hostile to anyone in opposing gear, rose and gave him a long, sustained standing ovation. It was only a few weeks after September 11th. The city was still reeling. But those people in that ballpark looked at John McCain, and they saw not an opposing fan. They saw a symbol of American grit, resolve, a fighter, just like them. Speaking of fighting, my third story revolves around boxing, which was John McCain's first love in sport. John was an amateur boxer at the Naval Academy. He was never the biggest man in the ring, but he became known for something more important: pure tenacity, never giving up. That quality, the willingness to get back up after being knocked down, that never left John. That same spirit showed up years later in John's fight to pardon Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion of the world. Convicted under the Mann Act for being a black man with a white companion, Jack's was a story of racism and injustice. John took up that fight, and he carried it for 14 years. John pushed, John persisted. He refused to let go, working tirelessly to coalesce bipartisan support. And in May 2018, John won that fight when President Trump granted that pardon, something John thankfully got to see a few months before he left us. John McCain used sports to build bridges and to right wrongs. The scoreboard doesn't care who you are. The ring does not negotiate with prejudice. So when I think of John and sports, yes, I think of a man sitting in his living room yelling at the television, but I also think of a man who used sport to connect people who otherwise did not agree, to help a wounded country stand a little bit taller, and to finish a fight for justice that might otherwise have been left unfinished. Thank you.